In our first story, Behind Mansion Walls,
They were wild. There were drugs. There was sex.
Texas oil money fuels the good life until it all slips away.
He shot Stan again and again and again. Shot him a total of 4 times.
And later, politics makes for deadly bedfellows.
He was a manipulative, arrogant, and evil person.
Is his money and his power going to keep him out of jail?
I'm Christopher Mason. When the rich and powerful are accused of murder, 2 things are certain: a courtroom drama and the best defense money can buy. Welcome to Rich Justice.
Texas crude is like money spilling out of the ground. For 100 years, it's been making men here rich beyond their imaginations. It's built grand fortunes, luxurious estates, and powerful dynasties. Some would say too powerful.
Too much money. Too much money.
Thomas Cullen Davis was born into Texas oil money, barrels of it. His father, Ken, made millions outfitting the big rigs in the 1930s.
He had an awful lot of money. The Ken Davis Industries were a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar company.
When Ken Davis dies, his vast business empire is split among 3 sons.
Well, I want the best skybox at Texas State.
Middle son Cullen soon proves he's as good at spending money as he is at making it.
Well, whatever it takes, you work it out.
Cullen's first wife will never forget their fairy tale honeymoon. 36 countries in 6 weeks. Christian Dior showings in Paris, a $10,000 mink coat for those chilly Texas barbecues. And when they get home, the spending doesn't stop.
It was kind of a, shall we say, a wild and lavish lifestyle that was pretty well known. He lived a good life. Spending money really was not a big problem to him.
But after the marriage and 2 children, someone else catches the billionaire's eye. A young woman on the tennis courts at the Ridgely Country Club, Priscilla Wilborn. Cullen divorces Sandra and sets his sights on the buxom blonde.
In the beginning, it was nice. It was good. They were in love. He courted her amazingly.
Hey, honey, can you help me with my Netflix?
Sure.
Cullen was he was a big spender. Lots of jewelry, lots of furs, lots of big trips.
Mighty handsome, too.
Priscilla was married with children, but the fuse was lit. Soon she has a new husband and a new home. Cullen Davis builds her a $6 million, 20-room mansion, complete with a tiny silver bell to call the servants. But is it all too good to be true?
Priscilla revels in her newfound wealth, flaunting her possessions to Texas high society.
She had a necklace that Cullen had given to her. The words on it were "rich bitch," and that became a real talking point.
Oh, that's nice.
In 1972, Priscilla's oldest daughter, Dee, moves into Stonegate Mansion overlooking Fort Worth. And youngest daughter, Andrea, visits regularly. With 11 bathrooms and a 2,000-square-foot master bedroom, there's room for everyone. But Dee soon discovers Cullen's generosity is limited to her mother.
If I said the wrong thing, if I said something he didn't want to hear, he would literally just reach across the table and, punch me in the face.
Dee Davis will never forget one especially cruel incident.
What did we forget to do tonight?
One night I was 13, he came and woke me up in the middle of the night. I forgot to lock the doors. And he put his hands on his hips and said,
"Why do we lock doors at night?"
So no one steals your precious junk.
and he bam! Punched me in the nose and broke it. So at that point, my mother came in and started yelling at him. And she had a baby kitten in her arms. And he slammed it on the tile floor with all his might and killed it.
In 1974, Dee and her mother have had enough.
He once pushed me down the stairs.
Priscilla files for divorce.
They divorced because she got tired of the barrage of abuse, and he tried to control where she went, everything she did, who she ran around with, you know, the control.
To Cullen's horror, a judge rules that Priscilla and her daughters can stay in the mansion. His mansion.
That had to anger him mightily. That was Cullen's mansion. That was nobody else's.
Dee remembers the day Cullen left.
When I watched Cullen leave the house, he took a couple of suitcases, and I could see that he was holding in his rage. He didn't like it. He didn't like not being in control and not being the one to call the shots. He had a love affair with that house. It was his baby.
With the mansion and $3,500 a month in alimony, Priscilla starts a new life.
There was some pretty good evidence of wild and crazy parties going on at the mansion.
From the testimony that would come out later, they were wild. There were drugs, there was sex, and there were lots of people.
With her new life, Priscilla also has a new man, Stan Farr.
Stan Farr, who was a former basketball player at TCU. He was a large man, 6'7".
August 2nd is Priscilla's birthday. She invites Stan to celebrate at one of Fort Worth's finest restaurants. Before the night is over, Priscilla's world will turn upside down. Priscilla's oldest daughter, Dee, is also out that night, leaving her 12-year-old sister, Andrea, home alone in their sprawling mansion.
We had a security system that, you know, comparable to Fort Knox. I mean, it was an amazing, amazing, very, very high-tech for those days security alarm system. When I left, I watched her arm the security system.
Andrea assumes she is safe and sound inside the sprawling mansion on Mockingbird Lane. She is anything but.
Sometime that evening, she has a strange visitor, a man wearing a black wig and carrying a pistol. Somehow, he gets past the elaborate security system.
At some point, he got her down to the basement. We don't know if he got her down to the basement in fear, at gunpoint. Nobody knows that.
Please don't.
What we do know is that she died where she was shot.
She was shot at close range with no defensive wounds. She never put up her hands. She was 12 years old. She turned around and faced him and did not raise her hands.
A little over an hour later, Andrea's mom, Priscilla, and her boyfriend get home. Priscilla notices the alarm has been turned off.
Stan?
And my mother started kind of looking around and saw blood. on the door facing.
Stan!
They don't know it, but the killer is still inside the house.
He shot her. Shot her in the left breast. It didn't kill her because she had had, at the instructions of her husband, silicone breast implants. And so instead of going through her heart, it ricocheted up and off.
Stan had gone upstairs, and he was starting to come down the stairs, and she hollered, "Go back, he's got a gun."
Of course, Stan didn't go back. He was, coming down to try to help. He shot Stan again and again and again, shot him a total of 4 times. And as he lay dying, he looked over at my mother and he said, "I love you," and he died.
But the bloodshed isn't over.
My friends showed up. He raced outside to see who it was.
The visitors are in for a shock. Not only are they confronted by a gunman, they think they know who it is.
Hey, Mama, look at me!
4 people shot in cold blood. 2 dead. 2 eyewitnesses who saw the killer and swear he is a man they know well. T. Cullen Davis.
At a Fort Worth mansion, a gunman in a wig has killed 2
Please stop.
and left a 3rd, Priscilla Davis, critically wounded. A surviving eyewitness, Beverly Bass, believes she recognizes the killer. And Priscilla does too. She thinks it's her estranged husband, one of the richest men in Texas, T. Cullen Davis.
She made some statements to the ambulance drivers to the effect that was called. So she was lucid and coherent and talking.
Priscilla's 12-year-old daughter, Andrea, is dead. So is Priscilla's boyfriend. Family friend Bubba Gavrell is paralyzed for life. Did a messy divorce really lead to murder?
You have 2 eyewitnesses saying he did it. That was sufficient to make an arrest, which they did do.
There was no question as far as Priscilla and Beverly Bass were concerned. Not then, not now. The man in black that night in the woman's black wig was Cullen Davis.
T. Cullen Davis denies the charge and begins to mount his defense while in custody.
So he contacted me, and I set him a fee, and he paid it. And we got started.
Defense attorney Richard Racehorse Haynes has a reputation for pulling off the impossible.
Well, he paid me $13 million, and he had plenty left over.
Both sides show up in court heavily armed.
Thank you, sir.
The defense with their multi-million-dollar legal team. The prosecution with 2 eyewitnesses and a motive. Davis wanted his estranged wife and daughters out of his mansion.
In the public mind, this is a hopeless case. They joke that the best Cullen Davis can hope for is to get the charges reduced from 40,000 volts to 20,000.
Mrs. Davis, is it not true to say that you threw wild parties to
The defense said Priscilla lied, and they brought her lifestyle before the jury, all her sexual escapades and her drug friends and her own use of drugs, and they made her out to be a terrible person.
Well, would you say that it's true to say that you shared your bed with a...
She got it proved up that she was taking dope. And we proved up that she had a doper coming over to the house.
But it is true to say.
Well, let me put it this way. The people in the town had already thought that Priscilla was a whore.
That is not true.
By letting in a lot of this extraneous evidence, permitted a character assassination of Priscilla during the trial. And the focus began to shift from Cullen's conduct to Priscilla's conduct.
This one woman said, I knew she was guilty the minute I saw her. And Priscilla had done absolutely nothing.
I put it to you,
And
ladies and gentlemen.
Cullen Davis has an alibi.
Innocent man on trial here today.
He was home with the lady he married, and he had gone to the movie. And so I proved up that he was at the movie. I proved up what movie was on that night and said he was there.
Racehorse Haynes is certainly earning his $13 million. He accuses Priscilla of being addicted to the painkiller Percodan, forcing her to admit that she's taking more than 200 tablets a week. He says that on the night of the shootings, she was in a narcotic haze.
As for the killer's true identity, the defense has an answer for that, too.
I think it was somebody that she owed money to for drugs, and he came to the house and just got in a shooting match. It was a drug deal gone bad.
Lasting 12 weeks, it's one of the longest and most expensive trials in Texas history at the
To
time.
be quite honest, I don't think that this charade that you're
Now,
playing out is
the state
a
holds its
single
breath.
person in this courtroom. And I think that the true victim here
Is this a story of a husband bringing retribution to his wife and family? Or a party girl in the wrong crowd?
Mr. Davis, please rise.
Has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes, we have, Your Honor. We find the defendants, Thomas Cullen Davis, not guilty.
I think almost everybody was stunned.
I didn't think he was guilty. I still don't think he was guilty, and the jury didn't think he was guilty. Hopefully, justice works whether you got money or not. Just luckily, he had cash enough to hire some good lawyers.
In the eyes of the law, T. Cullen Davis is an innocent man. But his legal troubles aren't over. He and Priscilla are still locked in a bitter divorce battle. And when Cullen Davis isn't getting his way, best be prepared for a Texas-sized surprise.
It's a year after the jury set Cullen Davis free. Months earlier, he had asked a former friend to do a job for him. To kill the judge sitting on Cullen's divorce case. With photo evidence in hand, the friend shows him proof that the job is done. But the photo isn't real. The friend is an FBI informant, and he's wearing a wire. It's all caught on tape. And soon after, T. Cullen Davis is back behind bars, charged with conspiring to kill the judge. One of the richest men in Texas is going to trial again.
All right, Mr. Davis.
Cullen claimed that he was working for the FBI at the direction of an FBI agent, and he was trying to trap this guy.
He asked me to help him set up a trap for David McCord.
As the court watches the video evidence, Davis and his legal team argue it was a setup, all right. Davis is set up to catch his former friend.
I am telling the truth, goddammit!
I sat there in the courtroom, and it was astounding.
Mr. Davis, please rise.
Let me tell you something that you need to know. That when that verdict came in, everyone in that courtroom thought Cullen was going to be convicted.
We, the jury, we find the defendant, Thomas Cullen Davis, not guilty.
Davis is found not guilty for a second time.
I can say that was the most astounding verdict that in my 50 years in this business that I have ever seen.
Not long after that verdict, T. Cullen Davis makes a big announcement. He has found Jesus. To prove his newfound piety, he publicly destroys millions of dollars worth of gold, ivory, and jade.
A decade later, his life is a far cry from the days of mansions and slavish spending. Davis files for bankruptcy with debts of more than $230 million. Today, he lives quietly in Fort Worth with his third wife.
T. Cullen Davis is living a contented, happy life. He has been accepted back into society. Priscilla Davis died of breast cancer just a few years ago. And no one has ever paid for the death of Andrea.
Up next, behind mansion walls.
He was a manipulative, arrogant, and evil person.
What happens when you say no?
And I just thought, oh my God.
To the most powerful man in town.
When Jerry turned around and looked, you could see a leg sinking into the ocean.
Wilmington, Delaware. A city built on the vast fortune of the DuPont family. Around here, establishment money likes to lay low on country estates. But sometimes the big players brush up against little people, like young secretary Anne-Marie Fahey. In 1996, she has a big secret. It's between her and her diary. And it might have stayed that way had she not disappeared on June 27th.
Anne? Annie?
She doesn't show up for dinner at her brother's house.
Anne?
This was totally behavior outside the norm for her.
Her concerned sister goes to Anne-Marie's apartment to check on her.
They find food on the table, they find her keys there, her wallet's there, her car is there.
But no Anne-Marie.
Anne-Marie Fahey isn't from a privileged background. She lives in a rough part of town, but she knows how Wilmington's glittering other half live. As scheduling secretary for the governor of Delaware, she has seen wealth and power up close. It's intoxicating. And it's deadly.
I read about the disappearance of Anne-Marie Fahey. She was the governor's secretary. It was front page news.
With her political connections, Anne-Marie's disappearance captures the attention of people in high places.
The governor had told the press that he'd received a call from President Clinton about the matter to offer federal resources if need be.
There were a lot of suspicions. We tried to cover every possible lead that there could be.
FBI Special Agent Eric Alpert is assigned to the case.
You run down her credit cards to see if they're being used. You check her bank account to see if that's being used. You talk to the neighbors. You talk to all her friends and everyone who knows her. You go to the last place she was seen. You try to track her whereabouts. You try to track her cell phone if it's being used.
None of those leads brings good news.
Based on all the circumstances, we felt that her disappearance would not be something that would have occurred by her own free will.
In Anne-Marie Fahey's eerily abandoned apartment, her sister searches for clues.
They start, sifting through everything, looking for, any clues to her sudden disappearance. And while they were doing that, they found her diary.
Although 30-year-old Anne-Marie is engaged to a young lawyer, she also has a secret she's keeping.
So they started looking through her diary. There's all this reference to this man that she'd been seeing.
In the diary, it talked about her having a relationship with Thomas Capano.
He was the legal counsel to the governor of Delaware. He was the top assistant to the mayor of Wilmington. He was a bond attorney. He had a lot of savoir-faire. He had a lot of money. I mean, he was a big shot. There is no doubt about it.
For a year and a half, Anne-Marie Fahey has been having an affair with one of the most powerful men in town.
Tom Capano was a millionaire. He had been offered the best in education. He led the country club life. He had a lot of money, and money carries with it a lot of power.
Tom Capano was someone who had a lot of wealth and liked to be out with the top people in society.
He has a beautiful wife, Kay. Their 4 daughters attend the exclusive Archmere Academy. A house in town, house at the beach. Tom Capano has it all. And you know what's coming next. He wants more. Tom has a craving, which he does nothing to control.
Good morning, Mr. Capano.
Tom Capano was a ladies' man. He had numerous girlfriends.
Your coffee?
Thanks, Laura.
How many? We know of at least 3 or 4, or there are probably others.
I like your blouse.
Thank you. Someone with excellent taste gave it to me.
Tom Capano had an amazing capacity to lead 2 lives.
Anne-Marie Fahey is just one of a string of girlfriends.
He was known by his friends as a serial adulterer. I mean, they did know that.
At first, Anne-Marie enjoys the attentions of her high-powered sugar daddy. But over time, her passion wanes, and she decides to end the clandestine affair.
He was a married man. He was probably about 20 years older than her. I think she wanted to have a different kind of life.
No, this isn't right.
He was telling her that he wanted to leave his wife and his kids for her.
Marriage is over.
That bothered her. Might have been the main reason that led to their breakup.
But Tom Capano didn't get to where he is by taking no for an answer to anything. Certainly not from women, especially mere secretaries.
Investigators begin to discover the truth behind this legal high flyer.
He was someone who wanted to run everybody's life and didn't like it when things didn't go his way.
Anne-Marie's diary reveals her lover has a dark side.
They found this entry that talked about how glad she was to be rid of this controlling, manipulative maniac. And they just thought, oh my God.
Can I get you anything else?
No.
June 27th, 1996.
Just come over so I can give you the gift.
High-flying lawyer Thomas Capano is angry and frustrated.
Tom, I don't want another gift.
Over an expensive meal, he tries to win back his lover, 30-year-old Anne-Marie Fahey.
You can at least do this for me.
But she's already moved on.
I can tell you that normally, Ristorante Panorama is a favorite among Philadelphia's smart set. But this dinner puts Thomas Capano in a bit of a pickle. This tense, very public display is the last time anyone sees Anne-Marie Fahey ever again.
You can at least do this for me.
Tom.
It was clear from the description given by the waitress in the restaurant in Philadelphia that things were not going well between Anne-Marie Fahey and Tom Capano.
A witness says the upset couple left Ristorante Panorama together. Following that lead, investigators search a rental property where Capano is staying. His housekeeper notices something strange.
The housekeeper said there was something different. The carpet had changed and the couch was gone.
There was no reason for him to get rid of a rug and a couch that were in fine condition in a rental house.
And we both said he rolled her up in a carpet.
But it's only a hunch. And if investigators want to prosecute one of Delaware's top lawmen, they need hard evidence.
During the search of Thomas Capano's home, we found 3 droplets of blood.
A speck of blood, literally smaller than the head on a pencil.
This tiny clue has enormous implications.
At the time, we could not match them up to anyone as we had no DNA sample from Anne-Marie Fahey. What we did was we had found in her notebook, her daily journal, that she had given blood 2 months earlier at the Delaware Blood Bank, so we contacted them, so hopefully we could get a sample of her blood.
That blood is a match.
That evidence, coupled with all of the circumstantial evidence we had, convinced us that Tom Capano had killed Anne-Marie Fahey.
Sounds like a slam dunk, doesn't it? Why not march out and put the cuffs on Capano? Actually, no. That would be like jumping into a tank with a great white shark. He'd simply eat you for breakfast and then get away, scot-free.
Circumstantial evidence won't be good enough to land this big fish.
Had no body, no weapon, no witness to the killing, and you had a millionaire defendant with every means at his disposal.
The FBI settle on a different bait. Tom's baby brother, Jerry.
We were looking hard at Jerry because Jerry was with him the day after she disappeared. We were able to put together enough information to do a search warrant at his home, and at his home we found cocaine and weapons there, which could have led to federal charges.
Investigators have Jerry over a barrel.
Okay.
Go to jail, or tell them what he knows.
And at that point, he had no other alternative but to turn on his brother.
I drove the boat. That's all.
Jerry has an amazing story to tell. Something that has haunted him for 16 long months. "5:30 a.m., June 28, 1996. Tom Capano asks his brother to help him get rid of a problem.
In the garage, there was a large fish cooler.
Jerry isn't exactly sure what's inside, but he agrees to help.
And Tom Capano said, "I need your boat."
The brothers take Jerry's boat far out to sea, 60 miles offshore, a favorite spot for shark fishing, Mako Alley. Whatever goes into the water here quickly becomes dinner.
They dump this ice chest, and it's bobbing in the water, and it won't sink, and Tom becomes frantic. And Jerry's a hunter, and he tells Jerry, shoot it, shoot it. So Jerry goes and gets a shotgun and fires 2 or 3 slugs through it.
It wouldn't sink. So Jerry maneuvered the boat over to where the cooler was at the time.
And Tom Capano opens the lid on a dead girl's coffin.
Jerry said that he went to the front of the boat because he didn't want to see. He had an idea what was in there, but he didn't want to be involved in that aspect of it.
And Tom Capano proceeded to take the body out, to wrap it in a chain and the anchor from the boat.
When Jerry turned around and looked, you could see a leg sinking into the ocean with chains around it.
Disappearing into the depths of the Atlantic is the body of Anne-Marie Fahey. It's all part of Thomas Capano's grand plan. He knows the law, so he can beat the law. But is anyone really above the law?
There are very few, if any, cases in Delaware that had ever been prosecuted where there had been no body found. And Tom Capano, being an attorney and had been a prosecutor one time, I'm sure knew that it's very difficult to bring a criminal case against somebody if you don't have a body.
What Tom Capano didn't count on was a knife in the back from his own baby brother. 16 months after his bloody fishing expedition to Mako Alley, the FBI agents swoop in. One of the biggest lawyers in the city is in shackles.
The arrest of Tom Capano is front-page news, and it triggers a local fisherman's memory.
He said that he had found a cooler floating in the ocean.
He puts in a call to the FBI.
And I spoke with him, and I asked him, was there anything different about this cooler? And he said, well, it didn't have a lid on it. And I said, well, anything else? He said, well, it had 2 shotgun holes in it. And at that point, we said, wait for us. We wanted that cooler right now.
It's proof that Jerry Capano's extraordinary fishing tale is true.
The cooler was the ultimate corroboration, because once we found the cooler, once we had fully corroborated Jerry Capano, Tom Capano had to admit that Anne-Marie Fahey was dead.
Now that is sounding like an open and shut case. Time to take on Capano on his home turf, the courtroom. But once cornered, he strikes back with a counterpunch that has everyone floored.
It's another woman.
Debbie.
In the fall of 1995, Thomas Capano is all-powerful. Top lawyer, political player, a charismatic man who walks into a room and gets what he wants. Now, he's about to go on trial for the murder of his ex-lover, Anne-Marie Fahey.
The line of media and gawkers spills down the marble staircase of the Daniel L. Herman courthouse. This is more than a murder trial. It's money and power versus justice. And the wily lawyer Tom Capano knows every trick in the book.
The overwhelming sense in the community was, are they going to get this guy? Are they, is his money and his power and his influence in politics, is all that going to keep him out of jail? Is he going to skirt this?
The case against him is strong. The victim's blood on the walls of his rented house.
I think we got blood over here.
A perfectly good rug inexplicably replaced.
Okay.
A brother who swears he helped dump a body. And a fisherman with corroborating evidence. So what does the audacious lawman have to say? He blames an old girlfriend.
Anne and I were sitting on the love seat.
He stated that she'd had come to his house while he was with Anne-Marie, and he saw him with her.
He boldly claims that far from being Anne-Marie Fahey's killer,
Who is Debbie?
No, it's okay.
he is her protector.
She became hysterical when she saw another woman.
He stated that she had a gun in her purse, took the gun out, and said she was going to kill herself.
A hero who tried to save her life.
I'll kill myself. Don't do it.
Tom Capano testified that then he jumped across the room and tried to grab her arm.
Come on. Don't do it.
single gunshot that went across from him and hit Anne-Marie and killed her instantly.
Davis shot Anne-Marie.
The fantastic story stuns the courtroom, but few believe a word of it.
It was almost ludicrous to say something like that could have happened.
This really cockamamie story about trying to be the hero. I mean, that was really a real sign of his demonic nature.
And his former girlfriend, disgusted with her lover of 15 years, denies it all.
She wouldn't take the blame. She testified at the trial and said none of what he was saying is true.
The prosecution presents a much more plausible version of that fateful night. They allege that after their stormy dinner, Tom lured Anne-Marie back to his rental house.
Ultimately, he believed that he should have total control over Anne-Marie Fahey. And once she made clear that she was finally able to break free, he was not going to allow her to live.
And I believe he just, went to another room and got the pistol. And when she wasn't looking, I think he just shot her in the back of the head. He decided that, if he couldn't have her, no one could. I think it's that simple. I really do.
When the jury returns its verdict, only one person in the courtroom is caught by surprise.
I think Tom Capano thought that he was above the law and truly believed that he was accountable to no one or no thing.
Up until the conviction, until the jury came back and said, you're guilty, I think he believed he was somehow going to get away with this.
Thomas Capano is guilty of first-degree murder.
And the crowd cheered, there were tears, people were hugging each other, they were jumping up and down. It was almost like the court system had won the World Series.
7 weeks later, the shock deepens. Thomas Capano is sentenced to death. But on appeal, his sentence is commuted to life without parole.
Today, Thomas Capano sits in protective custody in the James T. Vaughan Correctional Center, Delaware. He languishes by himself in a single cell, locked up 23 hours a day with 1 hour for exercise. The high life of dinners at Ristorante Panorama and golf at the country club, a slowly fading memory. Two rich and powerful men, but two very different legal outcomes. T. Cullen Davis spent millions on his defense, and the jury declared him not guilty twice. Thomas Capano thought he could do the same, but an unchecked ego was his undoing. When money and power come up against the wheels of justice, it's not always safe to bet on the outcome. Till next we meet, behind mansion walls, I'm Christopher Mason.